Johnson. I'm the host for today's roundtable discussion about Forest Green Rovers Club. Um, the people that are also going to be doing it today, we got David Wang,
Hey everyone, I'm a rising senior at Baylor School Chat, and I'm a part of the soccer team.
Hayden,
Yeah, I'm gonna be a rising senior at Baylor too, and I'm also a part of the soccer team.
and Mr. Almost Dr. Ben Holt.
Hey guys, I'm Ben Holt. I'm the lead scientist for the environmental research program here at the Baylor School, and I'm also the assistant coach for the boys soccer team here at Baylor.
So today's discussion is about Forest Green Rovers Football Club in Nailsworth, England. It was 2010. Dale Vince took over a 13-man Forest Green Rovers club in Nailsworth, England, that was playing in non-league football. Fast forward 13 years, and Dale Vince has led the club not only to their strides on the pitch to League One football, but also strides off the field in fighting climate change. Vince, often described as an environmental industrialist, founded his wind energy company, Ecotricity, which led him to become a multimillionaire, and has since transformed England's clean energy and wind energy specifically. He's done these strides, or he's implemented many policies at Forest Green Rovers to help it become the first carbon neutral club. Through some of these policies, it includes it becoming a vegan club where they only serve vegan food, using wind energy and solar power energy to power the club, as well as many other policies that has led it become the first carbon neutral club. And now let's get into our discussion. So as a high school level soccer player, after seeing what Forest Green Rovers has done, do you feel like you have been persuaded to change anything towards saving the environment?
Yeah, for sure. I watched their documentary, and they took a lot of things that were simple and made them more green and effective to lessen their carbon emission. So I was thinking, for me personally, Baylor has a lot of vegan options. So rather than maybe choosing meat, I could go for the vegan option. And if more people tend to eat that, they would take out more of the meat and have more vegan options, as well as maybe instead of driving somewhere that's within walking distance, I could walk and lower my carbon emission. And for Baylor Soccer as an organization, we could help to raise publicity towards climate change through maybe wearing like an undershirt. I remember at our region championship win over Macaulay, Guy had a shirt. And if maybe we did something like that, because I know for sure we'll have like cameras and the press there, maybe we could help to raise awareness if we did something like that. Or also in our home stadium, maybe create like a banner that we could hang somewhere so people would see and just be more aware about our climate change. And I saw this quote, which is, I think, something we could aim for, which is, we don't need one person doing zero waste perfectly, but a lot of people doing it imperfectly. So I think our goal is just to, as a organization, reach as many people as possible and help slow down climate change.
Yeah, and one of the points that you definitely brought up, the whole looking at the vegan options. I saw read a couple articles before this, and some people do think that like them moving towards vegan and some of the players eating vegan before their games and stuff has honestly helped with their success. So I did like that point a lot, and that is something that I think Baylor soccer and Baylor athletics as a whole could implement. But yeah, I definitely agree with all that.
Well, and what I thought was really interesting is if you look at their facilities, they're absolutely beautiful. There's pollination fields around their pitches. There's wetlands, and I'm sure it's an abundance of biodiversity that exists, which is a great experience for the fans and also, for the club. So I thought that was really interesting. And looking at their facilities, they're absolutely, beautiful and top class.
I saw something about them using like electric buses. I'm not sure how much it would cost or whatever, but maybe it's an idea Baylor could implement instead of using like a gas powered bus.
Yeah, and Forest Green Rovers has shown a lot of different potential opportunities they can do, but there are also some that they haven't implemented or have looked to implement yet that Baylor or any other sports club can do, and kind of set the tone with that. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the second slide. So David, this question is more directed towards you. So, what does it mean to you, both a soccer player and a teenager, to witness the initiatives by some of the clubs or most well known clubs? Does it make a difference on how you perceive what you're doing?
I feel like, as Taki said, that the raising of awareness is one of the most important thing nowadays when we talk about bringing on environmental friendly conditions. And for me, I just feel like what Forest Green Rovers are doing are just an insanely effective marketing strategy. They use the platform of a football club in England, which is some of the most well-known celebrities they include in their squad, to spread the awareness of like how we treat the conditions in football, in soccer, to be as eco-friendly as possible. And Forest Green Rovers, they don't need them to be vegan. They don't need them to transform their lifestyle to compensate for the campaign. They just need them to represent the club and the idea that held by the founder of such an organization, so they can spread the awareness toward others who like soccer, who have the same mindset, to cooperate with them together. I just feel like this is such a smart strategy that everyone should implement.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Athletes and celebrities around the U.S. and the world definitely have a big pull, and having them help out with that is definitely key to spreading awareness for sure. All right. So Coach Holt, this is gonna be directed towards you. Being a soccer coach and an environmental researcher, can we take anything from the initiatives started by Forest Green Rovers and other clubs, and can you see the any positive effects after the implementations?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I think the first big takeaway for me is that, we're having these hard conversations. 20, 30 years ago, we weren't having these conversations, and now we're having these conversations at a global scale. And as a result of that, we're starting to collect data, and we're starting to track things like emissions, track things like plastic waste, track things like food waste, and we're able to implement, positive solutions as a result of all that data that we've been able to collect. And I think what they've implemented here has been incredibly successful and incredibly popular. And I think other clubs around Europe are also starting to implement it as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see, in another 10 years that many clubs, some of these bigger clubs like Juventus, start to implement some of these protocols as well. So I think it's, really awesome, but it all starts with having these conversations, getting out there and just talking about the issues, and then really starting to collect the data that can be used to engineer solutions. Because, this is a great example of when you are presented with a problem, we can come up with ways to engineer solutions and to do things in a sustainable way, whether it's clothing, whether it's pitch management, whether it's travel. They've done a great job at implementing solutions, and also, testing out some solutions that might not work and then modifying them so that they do work. And I think, that all starts with having these conversations that we, weren't having 20, 30 years ago. And so I think this is just the beginning of, something that's going to be hugely popular, because, we only have one planet. We all live here together, and we don't have another option. If we destroy this planet, there's no planet number two, as this group is all about. So, and I think the other side of it is, what are some practical strategies that we can implement as coaches and as players? And it doesn't have to be, as I think David was saying, doesn't have to be as extreme as what FGR is doing, but everyone can do something. One person can't do everything, but everybody does play their role. And if we take responsibility, if we take responsibility of our role, we can do things like reducing our plastic waste, reducing food waste, reducing single-use clothing or single-use utensils that enter in landfills and that enter in our environments. We can cut down on the pesticides and insecticides that are being used to keep our grasses green, and begin to do things in a much more organic way. Something that I did find that was really, really interesting was, it was in FGR's data, but also in a study that was done in Brazil with one of the professional clubs in Brazil, is that around 40% of greenhouse emissions is associated with fan travel. And this is a big problem, because as a professional sporting club, you make money, you essentially survive by people attending your sporting events. And I think what FGR is doing that's really interesting is that they're organizing carpools and caravans, so it's not 20 people taking 20 cars, it's, 20 people taking 2 or 3 cars. And, that's a huge way to save fuel costs and also to cut down on the emissions associated with that. Another thing that I love that FGR is doing is that they're, implementing ways to be sustainable in terms of their concessions. I know, here in the States, we have these huge sporting events, and, in those sporting events, we sell thousands and thousands of dollars worth of plastic bottles or styrofoam plates with food on it. And I think, figuring out a way to use biodegradable plates or biodegradable utensils, and then maybe aluminum or things that can be recycled indefinitely, would be a huge step in us, making our sporting events more sustainable, while also still giving fans the experience that they want. So to kind of summarize, I think what FGR is doing is absolutely incredible, and it's super encouraging for me that we're having these conversations and that we're engineering solutions to combat some of these issues. So yeah, I'm grateful for y'all to organize this group and to give me the opportunity to sit down and really dive into FGR and, some of the greenhouse stuff associated with professional sporting events. And I hope that, at Baylor, that we can start to collect some of our own data, and figure out changes that we can make. Maybe it's giving every single player a water bottle at the start of the season and saying, we're not going to use plastic bottles anymore. We're only going to have, reusable water bottles, to figure out ways to implement solutions in the future.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I was reading about their new stadium that they're building. And one of the main things they prioritized was being able to have transit and, less polluted ways of getting to the stadium and making it easier for fans to get to the stadium through those different things. And I thought that was really interesting as well. And that's definitely one thing that, clubs could really do and really try to organize, especially in England and the United States, where they have the funds to try and invest into those things.
Yeah, and it's also, coordinating team travel as well. So maybe instead of driving 4 hours and 4 hours back, and then 2 days later driving another 4 hours and 4 hours back, maybe you find a place to stay, or you schedule games in close proximity so you don't have to do as much travel time. I'm sure the players would love that, and I think it would also be much more friendly to the planet.
Does anyone have anything to add? Because I feel like this is a good way to end it, honestly. Well, thank you guys so much.